Welcome everyone. My name is Chelsea Giuseppe. I am the marketing manager for UNH Innovation. Thank you all for joining us. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, our office hosts these monthly seminars on topics related to innovation and entrepreneurship. Our goal is to provide relevant information about these topics, whether part of a research program or a commercial venture, and opportunities for like-minded individuals to connect. For this year's seminar series, we have introduced an interview-style format to explore the theme of Innovating in New Hampshire, Innovation Assistance. This month, our seminar topic is Developing Your Workforce, and our guests will be discussing strategies for and state resources to help you find talent, but also to train and retain your existing employees. This will be followed by 10 to 15 minutes for Q&A. And then afterwards, please stay for some appetizers and networking. And we just want to remind you that you have to be 21 or older to partake in the alcohol.
See you, Mike.
Before I introduce today's speakers, I want to say thank you to our generous sponsors. Finch & Maloney, a law firm that provides intellectual property counseling and services to technology companies, and they're located in Manchester, New Hampshire. We also want to thank Divine Millimet for their gold sponsorship of our event. Divine is a full-service legal firm, also in Manchester, New Hampshire. They have a small business team specifically for information and services related to starting and running small to mid-sized businesses. Finally, I want to introduce the UNH Innovation Office. We have Mark Sadam, our Managing Director, Tristan Carrier, Licensing Manager, Tim Willis, back there is another licensing manager. Paige Smith is a business manager, and then Maria Manuel is our associate director. I forgot anyone. Okay. Now on to today's seminar. It is my pleasure to introduce our guests for the seminar, Mike Alberts and Mike Power, and our moderator, Raina Sarveya. Mike Alberts this one, is the Director of Global Operational Development for the Lisbon, New Hampshire-based company New England Wire Technologies. He has worked for them for almost 20 years. Over his career, Mike worked at several new technology companies such as Digital Equipment, Apollo Computer, Zatel Corporation, and Elliott Berg & Associates. Mike owned and operated a consulting and professional placement company in Greenland, New Hampshire for 7 years until selling the business and settling at New England Wire. Mike is an active participant in the movement to keep New Hampshire workers in the state. He is currently a member of 4 local and New Hampshire state boards, including 2 governor-appointed positions with the State Workforce Development Board and the Job Training Fund, as well as an active board member for the Grafton County Economic Development and North Country School to Work Advisory. Mike Power is the Community Outreach Administrator for the Office of Workforce Opportunity through New Hampshire Department of Resources and Economic Development. He is also the administrator for the New Hampshire Job Training Fund, which he'll talk about today. Working with the Office of Workforce Opportunity since 2001, Mike has also served in a variety of state agencies, including Office of the Governor, New Hampshire Department of Labor, the State's Tourism Office, and the Job Corps Task Force. He has also been the press secretary to a member of Congress and to a United States Senator. And then Raina works for the University of New Hampshire as an employer relations specialist. She is responsible for the employer outreach and planning and recruiting for career events and on-campus recruiting. As well, she attends site visits and networking events with prospective employers. Raina also meets one-on-one with students for alumni for career advising appointments. So if you have any questions about working with the university to find talent, she is your girl, and find her afterwards. All right, take it away.
So Mike Alberts, how would you define workforce development? What is the need for workforce development, the problem, resources used, and the impact?
Workforce development, and since I'm in an academic setting, when I thought about it, I really thought about it in terms of a definition. And I'll read the definition to you, and it's all encompassing to what we do in the communities. The facts that workforce development is not only an internal subject for companies, businesses in the community, but it's also an external factor, meaning businesses have internal workforce development that they're doing, and they have external responsibility and development that they can do in order to supply the communities and businesses and our culture with as much skilled workforce as we possibly can. It is defined for me as that it's actively and consciously advancing the knowledge and skill sets for individuals to perform jobs at a different and/or advanced level of contribution. Workforce development is a complete package that encourages employees, potential employees, to advance and experience the opportunities for career within a singular company. And when I talk about a singular company, I mean that our goal in many cases is that we have an employee for life. That's not the case, as we know. So one of the things we could talk a little bit about today is how do we retain, because we train people that go someplace else. And how do we keep those folks in our companies that we spend the money on, or how do we deal with that turnover? So as we define what workforce development is, I think we should concentrate a lot on this singular company piece, even though it's not reality. So a career within a singular company and profession, and it's an essential component, workforce development of community and economic development. Without a good workforce for us as businesses and community members to help advance our members of our communities to grow, then obviously we don't sustain a good workforce or good workforce development. I would say that when we talk about workforce development, keep in mind the idea of retention. Retention is the key, I believe, in regards to what you're doing in regards to workforce development. And we can talk more about that later.
So what are some of the inflection points a company should start considering in workforce development? What are the pressures and challenges that they're facing?
I'll get to that part, I can tell you. There are many challenges when it comes to workforce development. There are many turning points. And some of those are when you have turnover, and you see that turnover, people are leaving for certain reasons. You need to understand what that is. When your quality of your product or your service starts to go down, you'll understand that there needs to be some workforce development piece. When you find that you actively can't find skilled workers and there aren't anybody available, that you're going to have to deal with workforce development. On-time delivery in your business, if that's starting to fail, those are some of the indicators that you've got a staff that may not be able to keep up with the ways in which your technology is being driven. The challenges become those of availability of skilled workers, location, and wages. You know, there are many times we try to get employees at a lower rate so we can get them quick and we'll build them up later, but it's not enough to satisfy what the market demands. So we have to be very careful. The challenges are going to be those three components for sure. And then keeping the employee satisfied within that job by advancing their skills is another challenge once they're internal.
So following up on the first question, when should a company start thinking about workforce development?
As soon as you start interviewing the individual for the job, and if you decide you're going to make that person an offer, the first thing you want to do is really evaluate what their skills are. You're never going to hire an employee that's got 100% of what you're looking for. So you're going to say in your mind and in a file, these are the areas for advancement, and for skill development. You get that from references. So when you're doing your references and you say, what are the pros? And they give you the pros, you say, yeah, you got to tell me a couple of the cons. I mean, what things can we do to help develop this person? And they tell you a few things. So you got to file that, and right at the beginning say, here are the things we need to work on for skill development, and then you got to listen to the employee. It's very easy to have an employee do a really good job for a long period of time and never know that they really want to be not a design engineer, but a process engineer, and that's their goal. We don't do very well at reviews and sitting down with people, and that's part of maybe that our supervisors aren't trained well enough to do that. But we don't do well to carry forward the emphasis of what that employee wants to do from a career standpoint. Nor do we ever think that, you know, we can always break down the barriers and provide that for them. So if we give a lot of false promises or hopes, then we're not developing that employee. They're going to go ahead and leave at some point. So you've got a great employee, you've invested 3 to 5 years, and now they're leaving because we just didn't pay attention or draw out of them what they want to do next. Then we got to offer those opportunities. Whether a big company or small, we've got to offer those opportunities for that employee or expect to lose them. You know, there's a real investment in workforce development. I mean, it's not an immediate gratification deal. It's not an immediate turnaround. It's a long-term investment, and you're going to lose some people. But if you get 50 to 60% return, that's not a bad deal. And unfortunately, people are going to go to other companies if you can't provide it. So it's really right at the beginning.
What can we do on the company level or individual level?
Well, on the company level, I would make sure that who's ever supervising employees to understand what their skills are, what they can be, and also look into what their desires are as they're going in through their career. Companies can also provide numerous training programs in which they think are relevant to their business, and then look for volunteers to come in and take them, and that might urge somebody to go ahead and advance their career. We need to do really well at our evaluations of employees and take a look at hiring from within as opposed to going externally. Michael and I are on the job training fund, and there isn't one company that doesn't come in and say, what's your biggest problem? Skilled workers. Can't find them. Right? It doesn't matter whether you're in northern New Hampshire, which is the biggest challenge in the world since population's just about zero. The fact that you're in the southern part of the state or in Massachusetts, you still can't find workers. Skilled workers to do a job. So we're putting a huge burden on companies now to train from within or train people as they come in. And that's going to be a real challenge for companies, big or small.
When might a company be best suited for an internship or starting an internship program?
When they have identified a department and a person that is reliable and interested enough to manage that person successfully. There are way too many co-ops and internships that kind of get started because somebody asked, can you get my brother-in-law in here, or my sister-in-law, or can you help a friend, or the school calls and say, yeah, we'll find a place for them. But if it's not an organized co-op or internship, where the structure is expected to have certain results from that student each day, then that will fail. The student will write a great review of how wonderful they did on their resume or to their advisor, and they'll say, hey, look at all the stuff that I did, but typically they might not have done half of that. So it really takes a company to commit, and if you're not committed, don't do it.
What can a company do to prepare for this opportunity to maximize an internship?
I think it's part of more of what I just said. That what they can do to prepare is that they identify areas within their company in which they think they need certain skills. And after they've identified those areas in that company, they then go out and sort of look for those skills within the colleges and universities that offer that. You can have a college call and say, I'd like to have a co-op and intern in marketing, but if you don't have a need in marketing, don't hire the person. But if you got a need, go after somebody. There's plenty of co-ops and interns. And it's kind of getting funny now because we're calling, I get students call all the time, or their parents call and say, I've got Joe coming out of school in June and he wants to do an internship. Well, internship meaning a paid internship, a college-sponsored internship? Are we just calling it generically an internship? I'm kind of used to those days when we had a co-op, Merrimack College. They came in for 4 months, you paid them, they went back, they got another one. We don't do that anymore, it doesn't seem. I don't know. But I don't know. I think we need to define what this is. Co-op, intern, what? And what the expectations are.
So speaking on your personal experience, what have your internship programs looked like in the past?
For us, we've kind of abided by the kind of rules that we've set for ourselves, which is to have them well organized and have them with a supervisor that one has the time, one has that good documentation and organizational skills to handle a co-op for 4 months or 3 months of the year. We hire college students all summer. We bring in, if we've made money and we're profitable, we will bring in college students and their family, sons and daughters of our employees, and they will come in, and if we find something inside the company that is an intern or in their line of what they're going to school for, we put them in that job. And if it isn't, they're mowing the lawn or scraping or painting, whatever else they're doing, and hiding from the supervisor in the warehouse or something. So, but we try to put them in a place that's right. We've brought in students before that have definite responsibilities during the school year, that are not sons and daughters, that have a technical skill that we really can't find. And believe me, in northern New Hampshire, we can't find a lot of those technical skills. So we'll bring in some co-ops or some students, typically not paid, They don't require that, but they'll come in and they'll do a stint with us, with the hopes that down the road, we'll end up offering them a job, the local students. I mean, that's really important that we try to keep people within the state and within our community if we can.
So speaking on internships over here at UNH, I have majority of my appointments every day regarding students looking for internships. Students trying to recognize that internships are the new resume standard. It's what makes them competitive out in the working force. And majority of our students want to get paid. They can't afford the time without getting some money behind it. But what we like to work with employers all around the state, help them develop internship programs, get it publicized around UNH, get it posted on Wildcat Careers, attend career fairs, career events, and we can also work with the employer to tailor the type of student body they want to visit or the type of event they want to participate in. We encourage face-to-face interactions with employers so students can recognize the name and gain brand awareness around campus. And some students are looking for long-term placement, so an internship can ensure that. And I think majority of our New Hampshire workforce is looking for some longevity in our students. So what sort of development programs have you seen and taken advantage here at UNH?
Let's see, I've been involved in workforce development for probably about 35 years. And my original contact, well, I made many when I was working at, some of you may remember Digital Equipment Corporation out of Salem, New Hampshire, actually. They were all over the Massachusetts and New Hampshire and Maine, but we were in a final assembly and test in Salem. And when I got hired, in fact, I left the university to take a job with digital. And one of the things they asked me is, can you get some education for our engineers or our business people? Because we had about 1,100 people in that particular plant. It was still fairly rural. Salem wasn't Salem like it is today. So I called around the state, even the University of New Hampshire, and you could not find a taker. There wasn't a way that the university systems were going to move from education into business. They were busy doing the educational stuff, and this is their circle. This is where we stay, and this is what we do. We don't outreach that way. But George Abraham, Dan, of course, we know him well. George Abraham, who was just started at the Whittemore School at that point, said, yeah, I'll help you. So he started to help us. My point is, typically when we're working with education and business, it takes a maverick of some sort to say, I'm going to reach out to you and do some stuff that's really going to be effective. We use Dan McCarthy and the Paul T. School now, and we have used the Whittemore School and the Paul T. School ever since that day, 35 years ago. I still have lunch with George 4 times a year and meet with Dan on a regular basis in the Whittemore School or the Paul T. School. We take advantage of that, and we've taken advantage of some other engineering programs here before, where we've used some of the engineering groups to do some projects for us throughout the years. Our chairman of the board is a graduate from UNH. The 2 vice presidents are both graduates of UNH, and most of our people that are there are graduates from UNH. It's a product of what we do, and so we've got quite of a history with the university to do work with you. And we have seen more of an outreach from the University of New Hampshire than we have in the past, which means that more professors and more administrators are saying that's a good thing to do. We've got Plymouth State very actively involved in some of our programs. They're saying that's a good thing to do and it's part of our business plan. And years ago, when we were developing video conferencing so we could get some technical education to the North Country, the person who stepped up to the plate was Dartmouth. Now, who would ever think that Dartmouth would step up to the plate and kind of reach out to the community for an educational institution? It took a maverick. It took one guy to say, I'm going to do this for you. Until I get caught, I'm going to keep doing it. And he did, and we piped right into their educational ME classes, ME 101, 102. We had our engineers or people with VTC degrees, associate degree, working towards their matriculation through video conferencing of the classrooms actually as they're going on, back in video conferencing, which was, you were paying $200 a minute for the direct line, but we did it. So we've done a million things to try to advance the connection between education, business, and state. And I guess I'll just take 1 second to say that's the key component. There's 3 components to this whole deal with workforce development: education, business, and the state. In this room, we got them all. But in 35 years of doing this stuff, that is the hardest connection even today to make. So our success rate is really low because we don't think like educators, you don't think like business, all right? And the state's trying to satisfy everybody. They got a whole bunch of stuff. It's not just business. So this is, you know, a really difficult task for us to really overcome, to somehow beat that kind of cog we're in, to make these things turn around where we do workforce development really as a team and a group. And we can talk more about that later. Hope that answered probably the next 5 questions.
Mike Power, why do you feel workforce development is an important issue in the state of New Hampshire?
Well, first, thank you for inviting me. I tagged along with Mike, and I work with Mike Alberts. He sits on a couple of our boards. I'm from the Office of Workforce Opportunity. It's basically the state's job training agency, and we're located in the Department of Resources and Economic Development. Our funding comes not from the state, but from the U.S. Department of Labor. Under the Employment and Training Administration, we operate under a federal law called the Workforce Investment Act. And its mission, basically, is to serve certain targets to try to get them employed, get them on career paths, get them the training necessary to get on those career paths. We administer the New Hampshire work centers around the state. There's 12 of them. You used to call it the unemployment office. And you went in there for one reason only, well, 2 reasons. You went in there to say, I just got laid off, or you went in there to say, I need to speak to an employment counselor to prove I've been looking for work. And so the federal government changed the law 12 years ago. They've changed it. A new law goes into effect in July called the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. That basically says no, that a job seeker or an employer looking for a qualified employee should only have to go to one place. And so in New Hampshire, we were doing that long before the federal government mandated it. We're a system. So there are 7 state agencies and community-based organizations that I work with. We work as a system, and we call it New Hampshire Works. And you go in there, and whether it's vocational rehab training that you need, or health and human services assistance that you need, or employment security assistance that you need, or job training that you need, you can get it from that center. So we administer those. And we serve basically some target audiences. Most of our money goes to economically disadvantaged adults who are looking for a career path, and we counsel them. We can test them. We can work with them. We can look at jobs on demand, and if there's a barrier to employment, the training would solve. We'll pay for the training. We're governed by a state workforce investment board, of which Mike is a member, and we also serve dislocated workers, those people who are getting laid off from a company. We want to get them back into the workforce as soon as possible. And then the third program we serve is youth. We serve potential dropouts, at-risk kids, and we serve kids who have dropped out of school to get them back into an environment where they can learn some career paths and career essentials in order to get them work. We work with employers to find qualified employees, and we offer incentives to employers to hire the people that we can find for the people who are eligible under our law. And a typical case would be someone who's I'll give you an example of. I got a construction worker who's worked on the highway, worked for Pike Construction for 12 years. He's on the road crew, and during that time, you know, he gets married, he gets a kid, he gets a sore back, he gets almost run over a couple of times. He's tired of it. He wants to change his career path, but he does construction, so he doesn't think he knows anything else. And so Pike solves it for him. They lay him off in the recession when we were hurting. And so now he's an unemployed father with a bad back, and he doesn't know what to do. And so we had a counselor in New Hampshire Works talk to him, and they went over his life history and what his attributes might be. This counseling is more than just get you back into a job, which is the job of employment security. Their motto really is work first. We take a more holistic view because we want to bring that person on a career path so this won't happen to them again, and put them in an in-demand industry where people are looking for good workers. So, during the course of those conversations with this counselor, discovered that he was on the safe committee of his highway crew, and he had volunteered at the hospital while he was in high school. And so it came to be that he wanted to be a phlebotomist. He wanted to go from construction to testing blood. And so he needed some training to do that. But he had all the attributes, he had the interest, and it was a growth industry. So we paid for his training at the Laconia Community College, And today's a phlebotomist. He's wearing a white coat and he works indoors and he's happy as a clam. That's the kind of thing that we do. But we don't do it alone. We do it with, as I said, 7 state agencies. We work with a lot of educational institutions. Our closest relationship in education with the community college system. They're really a great partner that we work with. And we deal with the UNH School of Professional Development. And a lot of our training programs, it's not only entry-level workers, but we also have to get some human capital development in leadership and in project management and in other areas where managers and leaders must grow. And so we use UNH a lot for that. The other program that we talked about was the Job Training Fund, and it's an incentive for employers if they're looking to upgrade the skills of their workers. This fund distributes $1 million a year to small and medium companies in New Hampshire to upgrade the skills of their employees. They can use a training vendor. The community college is the vendor of first resort if they don't teach what the employer needs. Anything from CNC machining to project management to human resource certification to forklift operation. The employer finds a vendor that they've worked with or that they want to work with if the community college can't teach it, and we pay 50% of those training costs. It's been an enormously successful program. It's one of the simplest ways a small company can develop a more skilled workforce. The system that we designed is for small businesses, for people who've never written grants. Remember that 95% of New Hampshire businesses are 100 employees or less. So we're not dealing with a lot of HR offices. We're dealing with a man or a woman who runs a company who also sweeps the floors at night, is the HR manager who writes all the tax forms and does everything else in the company. So they don't have neither the time or the inclination to deal with a government that makes them fill out a 41-page application for $6,000. But the $6,000 is the difference between training a CNC operator and not having one. And if they don't train who they've got on board, they often can't find him. We don't have an unemployment problem in New Hampshire. We have a labor shortage. We have a less talented workforce being grown in New Hampshire because our in-migration from outside New Hampshire has stopped. Because of the recession, we have not seen the in-migration of degreed new residents from Massachusetts, basically. In the 80s, we had a labor shortage, but it was filled by people moving across the border. And then in the next labor shortage, people were hiring unqualified workers for qualified positions that needed higher skills, but they couldn't find the talent, so they filled those positions anyway, and companies suffered as a result. We often say, Mike referred to career pathways, and we want to take people on a journey. You know, my generation, I'm probably the oldest guy in the room, you know, my dad had competition of 3 people whenever he looked for a job promotion, and he had 1 or 2 career paths in a 35-year working career. Today we have 12 or 13. We have to anticipate the needs and desires of young workers coming into the workforce. They're not like me. They're not looking for stability or a 20-year career. They're not looking for 8 to 5 and an hour late break for lunch. They're very mobile. They can take it or leave it. It's not all about the money for a lot of the new workforce. So we have to be smart as employers and anticipate the needs of our employees as we try to design our companies for the new workforce. Our development efforts in New Hampshire and what we're trying to do is to develop a stronger manufacturing base. We had a great manufacturing history. We lost 30,000 jobs in manufacturing over the last few years. It's coming back. But we do have, because of an aging workforce, a real need for advanced manufacturing qualified workers. And so we deal with groups like the New Hampshire Manufacturing Extension Partnership, which is the premier training organization for helping manufacturers in all kinds of skills, from value stream mapping to systematic plant layout. And as I said, we deal with the community colleges on a daily basis. So, yes, go ahead.
Are there any other state resources that our attendees should know about in terms of workforce development?
Well, the incentives that we have are, and again, these are designed for small businesses people who otherwise couldn't afford it, and because they're not marketed and because they're not advertised, a lot of people don't know about them. We have a program where an employer can call up and say, I have 2 or 3 job openings, or I have 1 job opening, and we ask for them for the attributes of that program, what he's looking for, what kind of worker he or she needs to hire somebody. So we'll find qualified workers, and by qualified I mean unemployed workers. I mean, that's one of our jobs, to get people off unemployment and into a career path. So we'll find eligible people who are unemployment and we'll give them to that employer, and he can take a look at them and interview whoever he or she wants. So he or she may interview 7 people and say, you know what, I like Kathleen. Kathleen seems like she might be able to work for this company. She seems to have the skills and I think she might be trainable. So he can hire Kathleen 3 days a week, 24 hours a week, 3 days a week. She can come to work, and he does not pay. She still receives unemployment benefits because he's trying her out and she's trying him out. And the kicker for small business people really is not that they get 3 free days from a person coming in that they're trying out, is that we cover the workers' compensation, which is really the expensive part of our employment process. So that person can take up to 6 weeks to try Kathleen out, and after a couple of weeks they usually say, well, Kathleen's working out. She's showing up on time. She seems to get along with the other workers. She seems bright. She's trainable. We're going to hire her at this entry-level position or maybe some other position, and she's going to run this machine. So he's had a company, I can't tell you how companies just get burned in recruitment, going out and trying to find employees, spending the money, advertising. They spend money advertising. They don't have to. We offer that service for free. We have an electronic job match system that takes their job orders and places them into a database and matches them overnight with people who match what they're needing, and we give them a list of employees they can look for in the morning. But anyway, we try them out. So that match program is called Return to Work. And if it works out, they say, okay, I want to hire Kathleen, but now it's going to take 3 months to train her on operating this machine. And so our second program is on-the-job training. And Kathleen, because she was unemployed, she can work on that machine. And during the time she's being trained, those 3 months, we'll pay from 50 to 90% of her salary. That's a no-brainer for a small business. Yes?
So back to your earlier comment in your last set of, your last answer. Out-migration has stopped. So if the New Hampshire advantage is real, why aren't people coming anymore? Why has that stopped when nothing else has effectively changed? We have low unemployment, we have a good tax structure for an individual. Why?
It hasn't stopped particularly for entrepreneurs, but it has stopped for the usual migration reasons that Massachusetts had. A lot of people in Massachusetts moved into New Hampshire over the 70s and 80s for tax reasons. And they were starting families. They wanted to get away from an urban area, and they also wanted to get into what they thought was a safer environment for their children. That migration has stopped. And one of the real reasons it stopped was, A, we're an older population in the Northeast. You know, New Hampshire is now, the 3rd oldest state in the country, depending on who you talk to, the 3rd or the 4th, where Maine and Vermont, New Hampshire, in the top 3. But, and then the recession that we had in the last 10 years prevented a lot of people from either selling or moving. Migration stopped. So there's a number of factors that contribute to that. I think the 70 days produced a lot of people who were moving out of Massachusetts. They weren't particularly coming to New Hampshire. They were familiar with New Hampshire. They'd vacationed here, they'd come here, they were familiar with the layout. They knew what the place was. So the New Hampshire advantage, I don't know, we'd have to define it now, because certainly there are a lot of people who say there isn't a New Hampshire advantage at this point. So Kathleen is hired. He hires her, and so now we pay up to 90% of her salary. She's qualified for her job, and she learns to run the machine. And so then 6 months down the road, Kathleen should learn a new machine we just got, and so that's when the job training fund that Mike sits on comes into effect. And you fill out our little 4-page application. You can get the New Hampshire Manufacturing Extension Partnership to train. A $8,000 program will cost you $4,000. So those are the kinds of incentives we use to develop a workforce.
Thank you. Now, Mike Alberts, can you tell us about a program you helped start up in the North to get accessibility to more skilled workers?
I can. Would you like to hear about the School to Work program or one that we did internally, or both?
Both, please.
So I could name a few internally that we've done, and then I'll explain one in detail. We need to train for tooling, mechanical, sort of process engineering type folks, tooling and design, machine shop. Skilled workers in that area are almost non-existent. IT, okay, information technology folks, particularly in the North Country, absolutely zero. We just don't have any. I can talk about that. You can only imagine what that's like. And then the other side is just straight engineering. Don't have a lot of folks that have engineering degrees, nor do we have access to any engineering programs. That's a problem. So let me tell you about one that is a problem, but we kind of solved it a bit. We needed more sales folks. Some folks were retiring, some folks were staying in inside sales, and we're going, what are we going to do with our sales? We sell internationally. We're in every country. We've got reps and sales representatives at our plant that travel overseas, and we're all over the place. Of course, we've got a company in California, separate what we own. We've got a manufacturing plant in Mexico, and we've got another company that we own in China. Builds in China, stays in China. It's just a separate entity. So we're very global, and we needed more sales folks. So what we decided was we sell a technical product. It may not seem like it's technical, it's wire and cable, but it's custom wire and cable. So it's going into aerospace, telephony, space shuttles, it's going into rail, wind power. We have a separate division which is called New England Catheter, and that's reinforced catheter tubing. 40% of our products overall have a medical application to them. So we're building custom stuff every day for a bunch of different customers. So we needed some more sales folks, and we decided we would define what it was for sales folks. We'd hire basically entry-level college grads who wanted to go through a one-year program, get paid a fair salary, and go through a complete year of training with the hope that they would find their niche in our company. One, we needed some sales folks, so we were hoping a couple people would follow with sales. But we also had some openings in manufacturing at a technical degree level, and also design engineering technical degree. So it took us probably 6 months to develop this program where we've got to have all three of these people kind of hired at the same time, degreed, want to stay, commit, not do any work except to learn, and go through all of our divisions at our plant and come out kind of with a scorecard that says I passed. So we've completed that, and it's been a great success. We just completed it within the last few months. One of the gentlemen is a full-fledged salesperson selling for medical products, travels all over the world. College grad, had a little bit of experience up north in some marketing for a different company. Another gentleman was a math kid. He kind of grew up knowing math very well, and he had a good personality, great for selling. Decided when it came right down to him, you're ready to transfer into the actual going out and traveling and selling, he'd say, I'd rather do design engineering. He was perfectly fit for it. He knew our products by then. He knew the technical side of it. Usually takes us 6 months to train a design person, and it takes us another 2 years to really get them work independently. You know, he's up and running. He'll be productive in 6 months, probably independently, very soon after that. And then we've got the other salesperson who's kind of in waiting, deciding on what region he will actually go and sell in. And we have 3 more openings, so if anybody's interested, for a sales training position, we're going to do it again. So besides the other areas that I mentioned that we've got programs for, because we have to, because we have no skilled workers to do that, the sales program has been a very successful program for us, and we'll continue to do that. And it doesn't matter if they don't want to sell. It's okay. We hope that they're going to sell, but if they don't, we're going to move them into something else. Does that answer your question?
Yeah,
All right.
thank you.
Now the external, the other side of this question. Let me get to that one. We, in regards to workforce development, we've developed through the years. I talked to you about how hard it is to connect the dots between education, business, and state. State's always been there for us, by the way. I've known Michael for 20 years, and I think the first bit of money we ever got from grants or loans, or mostly grants, was from Michael when you were working for the Workforce Opportunity. So this really been a great plus for us to be able to develop our employees and give them basic skills. We realized in the tooling area, manufacturing tooling area, we had no skilled workers in the North Country, and nobody was teaching it. The trade school, which we call the trade school, community college, flip-flop from technical degree, kind of technical training, to kind of gen ed. It's easier, it's cheaper, and volume of participants for technical training was low, and the equipment and training is expensive. Where if you go gen ed and you go over the internet for a class, you can gather a whole bunch of people for reasonable money, and you make some money and you stay in business. So we understand all that. So that went on the wayside. We decided that we needed to gear up folks for at least skilled workers, and we started what we call a school to work program. We connected with 3 schools in the area. Franconia, famous for Polly's Pancake. Who's been there? There's got to be some hands going up, Polly's Pancake. So that's Franconia profile. Littleton, that's Chudder's, biggest candy counter in Guinness Book Records, so you go there. And then there's Lisbon, New England Wire Technologies, of course, everybody knows. So we got these 3 schools to participate in a school to work program where we would take a student out of the school for an hour and a half every single day during the school year. They would be placed into a business and learn a trade or learn a business. Could be a vet, could be catering, could be at the hospital cafeteria, could be at the hospital lab, it could be at an auto body shop. And at New England Wire, it was machine tooling at first, because that's what we needed, was machine toolists. And could be marketing. So we're in our 8th year in the School to Work program. We put over 240 students through the program. This last year, we had 53 businesses and 64 students go through this particular program every day of the week. Every day they come in for an hour and a half, and they would be sponsored and trained by a person at our staff, and then they'd be working independently and learn a trade. 60% of these students have gone on to college or gotten degrees and or come back in the field in which we placed them in. So not only have we got skilled workers now at the high school level, going to college, coming back, or not going to college and going into trades. We've got great examples of, we got a woman in the machine tooling who came in and did the tooling program at the high school, came to the tech school in Concord. 2 years later, she came back and she'd been a full-time employee for 3 years. Bingo, that works. That's a great deal. And they're staying in New Hampshire. So we've got 9 students, at least, after this year we'll probably have more, that have actually gone through the program and come back to work within our region. Now that's something we don't just do for ourselves. We're doing it for the community. Every business benefits from that. The veterinarians grab our students when they come back from vet school. The dental hygienists grab the students when they come back from dental school. And the kids come back and live in the North Country. Well, that works pretty good. So that's been a great program. Funded a ton by the state. A ton by the state, a ton by Grafton County Economic Development. It's almost sustainable, but not yet. Looking for one more round, so if anybody's got about 65 grand, see me after. So those are the kind of innovative things that we need to do. You can do the same things in the southern part, and there are other programs going on in southern New Hampshire. The only thing I see where there's a problem is that there's pockets of good stuff going on in the state. Portsmouth's got some stuff, Keene's got some stuff, Claremont's got some stuff, Lisbon's got some stuff. We got to put it all together and have one guru going, what's private industry doing with education and state, and put it all in a package and make it productive for everybody. I did bring some packages today if anybody wants to see the School to Work program. It's a complete design where I could hand it to you, and if you're an SAU, you could put the program together tomorrow just on this booklet. But it's been a very successful program. Just getting creative.
Thank you.
Yep.
Now we're going to open it up to the question answer portion with the audience.
I had a question for you, Raina. You were saying that you're really flexible with how you try to work with different companies about internships, but as you look over them, do you have guidelines or best practices for you think the most successful? Is it that you have a student one day a week for a dedicated 6 hours? Is it a semester? Is it they work with only one other person at the company? Or what are some of the elements that you think?
We are totally open to what works for the employer and the student. We work on an individual basis. An employer can come in having kind of no structure, and we can work with them on what has been successful, what are some of the startups that have done an internship program. So we take it on a case-by-case basis with the employer relations staff as well as our internship coordinator.
Do you have kind of favorite models, or do you find it relates to the size of the company or the?
It relates individually to, the age of the company, the size of the company, what model they want to work for. Do they want a semester basis? Do they want over summer, a J-term type of thing? So we really, we'll come down to visit the employer, take care of all the marketing on their behalf, and really target market to our students.
She talks about internships, and I'd like to flip it and tell you what's going on with, instead of bringing a student to the business, that we're taking business into the classroom. And there's been a huge movement forward in that because businesses finally do realize in a labor shortage market that they have to get involved, particularly STEM-related industries, where they need people who are proficient in math. And if you don't take the right math course in 7th or 8th grade, you're done. You're not going to be in a lot of fields that require some STEM learning. Businesses have to get involved in education. And in one sector we see a great leap forward, and that is advanced manufacturing. There were hues and cries 10 years ago that you couldn't find a CNC trainer in New Hampshire. You couldn't get advanced manufacturing training. You had to go to Massachusetts. There were no training vendors. There was no coordinated effort. We realized that manufacturing could make a comeback in New Hampshire if we had a trained workforce for it, because like everything else, manufacturing had an aging workforce. In the past 10 years, two great things have happened. There was a capacity building grant by the U.S. Department of Labor that went to the community college system of $20 million. And that was capacity building, to hire the teachers, to get the new equipment, to build the classrooms, to offer the kind of training that New Hampshire businesses wanted. But they couldn't do anything without businesses getting involved in that effort. And the community college system has made a huge effort in involving private industry into the classroom. What needs to be taught, or what pace, what subjects we need to be taught. Now, each one of the 7 community colleges teaches different protocols in advanced manufacturing. It may be composites like it is in Rochester. It may be robotics like it is in Nashua and Manchester. So there's been a huge coordination of business and industry in advanced manufacturing. It can't be done without collaboration. And so you can't pick off one company at a time. Groups have to be formed. You got a person in the room, Marion Humphrey, who up in Rochester developed an association of manufacturers that's made tremendous strides, because as a group they can do so much more as an industry sector to further their involvement in the classroom. So in terms of collaboration and capacity building, New Hampshire's come a long way. A report was released last week by Governor Hassan in STEM education. The New Hampshire Charitable Foundation has done a wonderful study about the STEM pipeline of where we learn and what drops off in STEM education from K to 12 and beyond. And there are some specific recommendations in there that involve the community colleges, that involves the universities, that involve the community and career technical education centers, the CTEs in New Hampshire for high school students. You just call them the tech schools. They've made terrific strides in collaborating with private industry. So there's hope in the horizon for the different sectors that we're concentrating on in New Hampshire, which includes advanced manufacturing and specifically the aerospace and defense industries. There's now an aerospace and defense industry consortium in the Department of Resources and Economic Development. They go off to trade shows around the world and they bring their products around the world. In our export office, New Hampshire has more exports per capita than 47 other states. It's something, so things are coming together. We're able to do this because we're a small state. Everybody kind of knows everybody in some ways. You go to some boards, you see the same people working on things. But because we're small, I think we're manageable for these kinds of projects, and that's heartening. It's encouraging when we look at the long-term picture. Thanks.
Another question? Mike Alberts, could you talk a little bit about what the training programs that you've done through the University of New Hampshire have looked like, and have you been training the lower level employees or the higher level employees?
Well, through the years, we've done both. We've done executive team building, and executive kind of relationship building kind of a deal years ago. We probably did 2 or 3 of those. We've done quite a bit of leadership training, done quite a bit of kind of train the trainer training. I would say that the university has provided the majority of our training throughout the last bunch of years, actually, except for what we've either done on the web or than we do with the community colleges. Try to stay connected with them. And what's great about the university, it's not just because Dan is here, but I would say there's 2 of them. If they can't do a program for us, they tell us they can't do a program for us. And they, are more than willing to help understand what it is and see what they can do to develop a program of what our needs are. But right now, I have 7 opportunities to work with the Paul T. School on 7 different programs for 2015. So, yes, we use other vendors, but from a university standpoint, none other than Balti School at this point?
The School of Professional Development has really upped their game. They're finally doing some outreaching to companies and providing training for succession management, leadership management, and their curriculum, their specific curriculum in professional development. And we're seeing them come in, hired by companies to do professional training. And we've given out several grants in the last few months to UNH. First time we've seen it in a long time.
Did that answer that? Okay.
Mike, you mentioned retention as a concern. I've actually had companies tell me that if they're afraid that if they invest in training for their employees, that they'll lose their employees.
Right.
Because they'll get skilled up and go work for other companies for more money.
Right.
Is that fair?
That's a numb excuse.
Yeah, can you blame
That's
them?
just, it is an excuse.
Can you blame
And by the way, that's why we have a low rate of workforce development and confidence in workforce development, because companies look at it and go, God, if I train this guy for a year and then all of a sudden, 2 years down he leaves, I'm sunk. That's sunk cost. So yeah, there's a risk. Absolutely, there's a risk. But how well did we manage that employee while they're getting trained and while they're working for us? How much did we know about what they were looking to do? And if I can think of examples even now where maybe we should have paid more attention and asked more questions about where do you want to go with us. And I think it's an excuse to not train people to say, well, I'm not going to invest in them because they're going to leave. Well, that's why we've got a shortage, because we hire people with all the skills, and we don't pay them enough maybe, and sooner or later they make it, or we pay them too much, it causes a compression problem, and they don't stay. And then you hire the one that isn't skilled, you don't train them, and they leave because somebody else can train them.
It's the elephant in the room. When we get together with manufacturing associations, it's the elephant in the room is pay. The companies are not, and you see it in national statistics, companies are making money hand over fist, the recession is over, they're making profits, they're holding a lot of cash, and they're not paying employees. So when the manufacturing industry puts out ads that says go to the community college and go through our advanced manufacturing and earn a certificate in advanced manufacturing, and the average pay in the manufacturing industry is $75,000. Well, when that company really offers a starting salary of $11 an hour, that's not $75,000 to me. When I ask why, they say, well, they need 2 more degrees to get that 75 grand. But they're not, the problem, it's not just the manufacturing industry sector, I'm not singling them out, but it's the one we have the most conversations with. Pay is an issue, and employers have to learn that if they're going to have skilled workers, they have to pay for them.
If I mentioned this before, and I may have said it out loud, but if I talk about having a meeting about, or somebody has a meeting about workforce development, every company, every HR person, every president and selected person will come to that meeting. Workforce development, boy, we need that. When they leave the room, you couldn't fill a room with the amount of workforce development we actually did. Because it's a fun subject. I love to talk about it, and I love to think about how great it would be if you got to bite the bullet and put a program in place that's going to retain, and that's why I say it's really about retention. How are we going to keep people in the state? Retain by doing some things that offer them a benefit to stay here. Same with the company. What do we do in the company? Got to understand, what do they want to do? If they've got a skill and a trade, and the mechanical engineer decides they want to become an electrical engineer, they're really looking over the side of the street going, boy, those guys are having fun. Pay attention to that.
And we need to help companies realize how to define return on investment, because that's what it is. It's human capital investment. And they know, they can understand capital investment in machinery. But we really have to help them understand the ROI on human capital investment. If I'm a manufacturer and I take a training, if I hire New Hampshire MEP for training, and they do some value stream mapping for me to learn from product beginning to end how to eliminate waste. And the ROI, the MEP helps them set parameters. Because we're going to do this training with our workers, we're going to have 7.5% less waste along the stream, or along the production stream. 7.5% less waste. Well, you can define that 7.5% waste in dollars, and you wouldn't have the 7.5% without the trained workers know how to do it. So we've got to be able to help employers and sectors define what the return on investment is of human capital investment, like they do with machines.
One trick, companies don't do this very well at all, exit interviews. Okay, I can guarantee you 90% of the people that tell you why they're leaving not the reason they're leaving. But you'll never find out. You can only assume. Oh, my spouse has got a job, my partner's got a job somewhere else, or boy, they recruited me and I couldn't say no, or oh, we just wanted to, travel a little bit, or geez, it's something went wrong where they are. So you go to the old adage, how much does it take to make a sale? A lot of money. How much does it take to keep the person? A lot less money to make the sale, the customer. If you look at the employee as the customer, how long does it take to get it? How much does it cost you to recruit? A ton. Money, recruiting fees, advertisement, manager's time, the risk involved. Then you get the person. But what does it take to keep them? Not much. We don't do that not much very well. We're too absorbed in our other jobs. Just figure, well, whatever happens, cost of doing business, high turnover. I'd suggest that it isn't, that you can minimize that. But we don't focus enough on that as a company to say we are committed to pay attention to the current employees' skill development and what we need to do down as we forecast 5 years out. Because we think somebody's going to get an advantage. Well, if I can move you, you got to give you more money. Oh, it's going to cost Susie a problem. So don't do anything. Okay.
Yeah. I think there's kind of two different camps, and you've touched on both of them in different parts of this. That some people are drawn to money, and some people are drawn to advancing their knowledge or doing what they want to do, what they love doing, right? So listening to what the person wants is huge, and doing that form of it. So some people may not be driven by money, and that may not be the thing. So you're listening to them and doing, right by them keeps them there, even if they know they could make more money somewhere else.
I should have made that distinction before when I talked about we have to keep our eyes on the new workforce. And the difference is, I think, if you're going to categorize it simply as where money is the main objective or where job satisfaction is the main objective, it's the emerging workforce. It's the people who haven't had a job before or entering the job market. College graduates are entering the job market with a different set of values than somebody who's been in the workforce for years, who has a family, who has a mortgage, who has a house, who has that kind of thing. The emerging workforce has very different expectations.
And I would stay with the fact that I think feeling good about your job is probably got a higher value than the actual dollar. Although you want to get paid a fair rate. We're not numb about what our worth is. We just know what it is. And if we feel we're getting hosed, then we're going to leave. But there's nothing better than feeling good about your job, period. I mean, if I get enough money to live and I'm feeling okay and location's good and all that stuff, and I like my job, I'm happy. I could be making a few more bucks, but I get along with everybody. They get good responsibilities. They care about me. I like where I live. It's key, and I think that's why people leave.
We have time for one more question.
If not, I'll just one point I'll make. As we do focus groups with employers over the years, and we do retail and manufacturing and all kinds of sectors, and we ask them what they should train in. And I remember particularly the first time, what should we be training the emerging workforce in? What should we be training workers in? Should it be some kind of language, a platform, customer service? What should we be teaching? And by and large, employers said the same thing to us when they came back to us. They said, not to insult you, but you are from the government. And so we're gonna ask you not to worry about the training. We'll teach a lot of the training. We'll do the training. We'll find training. We'll do the training. We want the emerging workforce to do 4 things. We want them to show up, to dress up, to speak up, and respect work. That's all we need you to do. Because those are learned in the home, and they're learned in the early school years, and they're learned by some counseling. And that is to show up, is to be dependable. Know that you're going to work. You don't know how hard that is not ingrained in us. We have to learn how to be able to be dependable and to show up to work each day. And we can do that. But you have to work at it. When kids have so many other distractions, and a lot of new residents have those distractions. To dress up. That's a safety issue. In a lot of our jobs, we need to dress up. whether it's dressing appropriately for the work, whether it's taking, the nose out of your ring if you're at the front desk of a hotel, or whether it's wearing steel-tip shoes or a helmet or a vest. And then speak up was critically important to employers. They said, please give us people who ask questions, who aren't afraid to say, I don't know. Because again, that is a safety issue. But so many young people are afraid to say that they don't know once they're hired to do the job because they're afraid they'll lose their job. So dress up, show up, dress up, speak up, and then respect work. Don't expect to be the executive VP after 2 weeks. Learn how to say yes, sir, no ma'am, yes ma'am. And if you give us those, we'll do the rest.
Thank you.
Thank you guys so much for participating. Thank you for all your questions. Again, feel free to join us for some networking and refreshments. If you could just give us 2 more minutes of your time. Tim Willis wants to talk to you just a second about a technology innovation grant being offered in February through the NHIRC.
Yeah,
Thank you very much for your time, by the way. Thank you. Nice to meet you all.
Sorry, just a quick second. Our office administers the New Hampshire Innovation Research Center, and there's a grant that we offer through it, and we're rolling into the new RFP, which will go out on February 2nd. So if you're interested in hearing more about it, just come grab me. And there are flyers up there, too.
Thank you.